Hello and welcome to Testimonies with T. I'm your host, Tia Costell, and today I'm here with Ellie.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for reaching out.
Yeah. So talk to me. Tell me about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so my name is Ellie Ratu. I'm 24 and I currently play netball for England and in the Netball Super League.
Wow.
Full-time netball player at the moment.
Wow, that's amazing. So how long have you been playing for England?
Yeah, so I got into the pathway when I was 15, 16, into under 17s.
Okay.
Then kind of just progressed up, and this is going to my third year in the senior squad.
Wow, amazing. So I'm guessing it's took you all over the place to play.
Yeah, the best thing about our sport, I think, is that netball is mainly played in Australia and New Zealand.
Oh, wow.
They're the best teams, and Jamaica and South Africa. So they're kind of the cool places we get to travel to, which is obviously other side of the world.
Yeah, insane.
If you want to go there, play netball.
Yeah. What a dream of a job.
I was great. I mean, it could be literally an hour's flight to somewhere else, but
wow, I really didn't realise that obviously Australia and New Zealand were so big in netball. That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you, Lord.
Yeah, literally. I'm so glad that you're able to do what you love. But yeah, so let's take it back to young you. What was your childhood like and your upbringing?
So grew up in a Christian family. So got my mum and my dad, and then I've got an older brother called Josh, who's 2 years older than me. So yeah, I would say kind of normal upbringing, going to church, Sunday school, that kind of thing. And then we all just played sport from me and my brother played sport from quite a young age. Okay. So my parents are PE teachers.
Oh wow, so it was really
it was ingrained in us. Yeah. Literally as soon as we could walk. So I played basically every sport growing up.
Oh wow, amazing.
And then kind of played hockey and netball to quite a high level. And then picked netball when I was 15, 16.
Okay. In terms of then family life, did you have a good relationship with your parents?
Yeah, no, really good. And my parents are I speak to them almost every day.
Oh, I love that. I'm literally the same.
It wasn't always like that, obviously. When I went to university and stuff, you're obviously very busy and you're just enjoying life as a lot of things. So, but I think since moving to London and kind of being a bit more of a self-sufficient adult. Yeah,
nice. And what about the relationship with your brother?
Yeah, good. So my brother actually just married my best friend.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, I know,
that's
crazy.
Amazing.
So shout out them.
Wow.
So that's actually amazing. It's so much fun that my best friend is now part of my family.
Wow, that's so beautiful.
So I mean that was an interesting roller coaster. Figuring the dynamics of that out before prior, but I always had quite a good relationship with my brother. We have very similar humour.
Oh, nice.
But we're not gonna spill our hearts to each other. I don't think. I mean, if we need to, then we probably will. But we're not
that kind of.
Yeah, it's more a 20 memes a day.
Yeah.
On Instagram. Just getting sent reels. That's
I get you. That's the relationship. Yeah, nice. And then how was school growing up?
I actually loved school.
Nice.
Yeah. I enjoyed it. My friends were there. I was fairly academic and I had a bit of an interesting one because my parents in my secondary school were teachers at my school.
Oh, yeah. So what was that like?
My dad became the head teacher.
Oh, wow.
And my mum became the head of sixth form. So we basically ran the school. And it was great. No, I actually, again, I didn't struggle with that massively.
Okay, that's good.
You have some students that don't like your parents, but at the end of the day, I know who they are and they're not affected by that. So I was hey, if they don't care, then I shouldn't care either. But on the whole, my dad as a head teacher was very well respected, so I think that was quite nice. That people can kind of go, oh no, he actually is good at his job. So I loved it. He got me in the lunchline early sometimes.
So then obviously you went to Sunday school and you went to church. What did in the home growing up with a Christian family look like?
More recently when I reflect back, my dad my mum's amazing. I love my mum. Yeah. My dad's been very consistent with his morning. Every morning he goes and have a quiet time in the living room or in the kitchen. So coming down for school, you'd see that he's the Bible's open. Yeah. And he still does that now, religiously, all the time. And then my parents, their bedroom's at the top of the house.
Okay.
And so we would call that our upper room because I would go up there to have my time with God and worship.
Oh,
Because no
wow.
one could hear you if people were downstairs. So it's kind of like you had your own little like
yeah,
church,
that's so nice.
in their room. So I think that was really nice to kind of like, that was like a known thing that, I'm going upstairs. Like no one come into mum and dad's room because I'm like meeting with God.
Yeah, wow.
So I think like seeing them do that regularly, have like open discussion about things that we read or like podcasts or like preachers that we'd watched together.
Wow.
So I think they did very well trying to like include us in their faith, but also not push it and be like, you just watch us live in relationship with God and like basically find God in that as well. Yeah.
So in terms of then going to church in those younger years, was it something that you felt like you were just doing, or did you were going because you needed to go with your family kind of thing? Or was it a case of like, no, I like really want to go, or like I'm actually finding a relationship with God? Yeah.
I think, you obviously growing up, there's so many phases of life.
Yeah.
I think growing up, like when I was young, like I really, really enjoyed it. I loved like going out, like the back, like Sunday school and like playing games with friends and like learning stories and stuff. And I think from quite a young age, like because I was quite academic, like I learned it.
Yeah, and understood it.
Yeah, I was like, I know all the answers. Like, the answer's Jesus, obviously. And then I think, as I got a little bit older, kind of like younger teens, I still knew that I was going to go. And I think we had a little bit later, we had kind of a bit more of a choice. And then I think around 15 was kind of the time where I really encountered God and was like, okay, I've heard all these things. Like, I want people to speak about like a personal relationship. Like, I want to like now have
experience
that.
Yeah.
And so like, how I became a Christian. There's this Christian camp called New Day that we went to every year growing up. And I knew I was going to go again, and that I was going to be on the outreach team. So basically, like, you put on red tops and you like go into like, the local community and basically like ask God to speak to you about people, or just like go and try and tell people about Jesus. And at a young age, at like 15, this is kind of wild. Like just going up to random like strangers. And,
especially being so young.
And like really putting you out of your comfort zone. And I was like, okay, God, like I've heard all these amazing like miraculous stories and you like, speaking to people and cool things happening. I was like, okay, well, if you're real, like, come on, like show me. So before I went, I think it was like 2 months before, like I sat down in my living room and kind of just like praying, like, okay, God, like, tell me something about someone I'm going to meet that like no one else will know. And so I kind of just sitting there, nothing really came to mind. And then just like the line of like mother that's just lost her son. And I was like, gosh, it was so dramatic. Like I just thought of like a Coronation Street, something like plot line and whatever. And I was like, that was stupid. So I just ignored that and then obviously went. And then to the end of the first day, we were in like kind of walking around. There was this park and we were obviously wearing red t-shirts. And there's a group of us, so it's a bit obvious that we're standing out doing something. And so this lady sort of came over to me in the park. She had a couple of kids. And she's like, oh, like, what are you doing? I was like, oh, like, just explained, just like walking around. We're at camp. And then we were literally being called like, oh, okay, the buses are going, like we need to start heading back now.
Okay.
And so I was walking away from her, and as I walked away, I just had this massive sense of like, just like a wave of sadness came over me. And I felt like, you need to go back and just see if she's okay. So I was like, okay, let me just go back and speak to her quickly. So literally turned back around and said, oh, like, hi again. Like, just wondering, like, is there anything that's like troubling you or anything like that? Like, not saying, oh, I feel that you're sad. Just like,
getting her to open up.
Yeah. And she was like, actually, she'd lost her son. Like, her son had died. And she had 2 other kids that were playing in the park. And she was like, I'm just really struggling with the grief of it. And obviously for me, that was like, oh my word, like, that's literally what I heard. I was reminded then of a couple of months before. So we just sat down on the park bench. She was crying, I was crying. And it was just kind of like a moment of like letting someone, grieve and then to feel that grief with them. And
hold them.
Yeah, I just prayed for her, told her about the local church that was there because that wasn't the area that I'm from. And then left, and then a classic on the bus back. Like, oh, that was cool, but then also, coincidence. Can't be real. Did I just make that all up? And I was like, God, if that was you, we do it again.
Let's just test the waters a second time, you know?
I'm not quite sure yet. And then we went the next day. We did treasure hunting. So
fun.
Again, hadn't done this before. Anyone doesn't know. You basically like just pray and ask God to give you like maybe like a word or like something that someone's wearing or whatever. And so some people like led us in that, and you just basically start writing down anything that comes to your head, essentially. And so I had like a list of things, but 2 things that stuck out was ice cream van and arthritis.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so because they were like, you know, pray about a place.
Yeah.
I go back to the park, and I was like, I know there's an ice cream van that we passed. I was like, okay, let's go to this one. Speaking to the lady that was working there, like serving us.
Yeah.
And she was saying she had arthritis in her hip and was going back to the hospital the next day.
Wow.
So we were able to pray for her about that, and then we were talking a little bit more. And she was like, "Oh, you guys are Christians?" She goes, "Oh, I go to mediums." I was like, "Oh, interesting. Like, why do you go to a medium?"
Yeah.
She's like, "Oh, because my son died." And I was like, "Oh, wow! Like, here's another mother that she's lost, that's, like, lost a son, and it's obviously trying to like grieve him as well in that way." We just got to have a little conversation, and I think again, it wasn't me to be like, "Oh, God told me that." Like that wasn't what it was for. It was for God to say, "No, actually, I speak to you." There's too many things that lined up.
Yeah,
of course. Like, okay, yeah. Now after that, I was like, I 100% believe you're real. You speak to me, and you want to speak to me.
Yeah.
And then I got baptized maybe like a couple of months after.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I've been sold from that point.
Wow. Really. Did life look different after that point in terms of you, yourself, and the walk?
Yeah, I think that kind of gave me the confidence, but I think I also remember again being prayed for at that camp and just really encountering the Holy Spirit, and from that point having like a boldness within me. I think before that I was quite like, I knew I was a Christian, or like, you know, went to church, I would call myself a Christian, but would still feel like shy to like speak about it, or like if someone asked me straight out at school, I'd be a little bit like, oh, I don't really want to like answer that question.
Of course.
Say. And I think from that point, I just really like felt a boldness and like a courage to be like,
this is who.
And not be like ashamed of it, and I think God's kind of used that throughout my story of being able to like take opportunities that He's given me to be like, actually no, speak about it now. Like I've opened the door. And then also just to not be afraid of people's responses, but also to learn that a lot of people are actually quite interested.
For sure.
And it's not like oh, that's so weird. It's like oh, okay, like tell me more. Like what do you believe? Like why do you believe that? What's God done in your life to make you believe that? So I think it kind of just changed the narrative from that point.
Yeah, for sure. Wow. So is this a similar time that you then chose netball? Yeah.
So literally I think that year, the following year, the netball kind of started. So I went into like the Roses Academy, so under 17s, and that was so cool because even kind of within netball, I knew that I could do quite well from what I've been told. And I've been like county level for like 3 years. Normally people are in there for 2 years and like go up, and I like got rejected after my second year. So I was like gutted about that, but I was like, it's okay, like keep going. And then like in the span of that year, I went from county into the national academy, so that's like quite a few steps that you like kind of jump.
Wow.
So even
all in the right timing.
That within itself was crazy, and like from there it kind of just continued, and then we went on some like tours and stuff from a young age, and it was cool.
Wow. So what was it like then being in the academy? What was that experience like for you?
I mean, the academy, a lot of us hated it.
Like
it was like a weekend a month. We'd absolutely dread it because obviously we're like 15, 16. You've got coaches, you can get like dropped at any point.
Oh wow.
Like
so
it takes so long to get into it.
And
then you're only in it for like a couple of months before the cycle starts again. So it was like intense, and obviously you're scared to make a mistake. Like every time you're up against someone that you know is good, you're like, oh my gosh, like, what's gonna happen? Am I gonna play rubbish? So
of course.
There was a lot of like anxiety around that, but I had a lot of friends in that as well. So that was, and like a lot of the girls from those years we're still together now, like in clubs in England,
that's so nice.
I like some of my closest friends.
So then from there you then made the team. Is that how it went? So you went to did the academy?
So did the academy under 17s. We did like Netball Europe and won that and stuff, and I even remember at that one of those camps actually talking to one of my roommates about Christ and how I became Christian, and we ended up going to the same university, and she's still one of my very good friends now.
Wow. So that was just on the stroke of a conversation.
Yeah. So we were just like lying in bed because you share a room with someone, and I don't even know how we got onto it, but I think just when you live life with people, it just becomes quite a natural thing, and I think that was kind of what I learned, was that, you know, when you share life with people, when you make something normal because it's normal to you, it therefore doesn't feel like a scary topic to approach.
Yeah, that's so
you know
good.
what I mean? She's like,
For
sure. Of course I'm going to church. And then they'll be like, how was church?
Yes.
And so it just becomes like a quite natural way for people to...
For sure, because they realise it's a part of you.
Yeah. Did under 17s, progressed into under 19s, went on some more tours like Australia and New Zealand, which was amazing.
What was it like navigating the faith through all of that then? You're obviously away a lot and all of that.
I mean, we would only go away for maybe a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Whereas now we can go away for like a month, over a month.
Oh, wow.
So it's definitely like a massive transition. But they were amazing. To be 17, 18 and to go to the other side of the world to play the sport that you love with your friends.
Yeah.
Is like such an incredible experience.
Yeah,
and like you say, you share life with people. So I think that's probably the best thing about sport, is that you literally get to do that.
Yeah.
Because you spend so much time with these girls and in ups and downs emotionally, and like you say, travelling and sharing rooms, and you know, there's not really a space that you get without them.
Yeah, of course. So do you feel like your faith was still able to be like at that constant on fire level?
But yeah, I think this is when I again was very sure of who I was, and I was like, I know God's real, I know God loves me, and I think that again around these times when I started learning how to drive, and I could then drive to training in different places, it was the hour or 2 hours, whatever I had in the car, was like worship music and podcasts, and that was great because that was like a space that you had by yourself. And like, I can't sing very well, so like having no one in the car when you're driving and singing is just great.
I've had some of the best worship sessions in the car.
100%. Like the Holy Spirit is alive and active in the car.
Literally.
And so I think they were helpful times as well. But I think, you know, again, being 17, 18, you're navigating like friendships, relationships, and like I think I wouldn't be like I was 100% knew who I was, and I think that kind of showed as netball started to progress. I think I started to make that more of my identity or like held that in higher esteem than who God said I was. And that all kind of came to a head when after the under-19s tour, and I went like vice captain. And so like I was like starting centre, like really was like doing quite well and felt quite comfortable in my position. We then came back. I actually got injured on that tour, so only did like half of it, but was there the whole time. We flew back. I was in like a boot, basically trying to do rehab really quickly for trials for under 21s, literally like a couple of months after.
Okay.
And I basically rushed my rehab. Hadn't really run properly before the 3-day trial.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, we had like new coaches coming in, and it's kind of like I was going to be like the eldest she could be for this new age group.
Okay.
We were preparing for a World Youth Cup that never actually came in the end because of COVID. But I was like, oh, it's fine. Like I'm the eldest like that you can be, like if this is the group of girls that we've just gone on tour with, and I was vice captain, then I can literally just rock up, but like say like try a little bit, like obviously prove to them that I want to be on the team because I've tried to get back on court as quickly as possible, but in the end like was pulled out of the trial by one of the physios because I just couldn't run.
Wow.
I was like, oh, it's fine, like I'll still get in, like subject to fitness, it's fine, and was like literally not sweating it, which is so bad. And then rightfully so, like then didn't make even like the long squad, and that was genuinely like heartbreaking. It was like crazy. Like I had lots of people message me like, what's happened, like and I was just like in a state of like kind of like shock, and, like, frustration.
Because you literally didn't expect it, so then you couldn't even process that you wasn't on the team.
I just thought I thought I was just so secure in that. Sorry, I was already at university, about to go back the following year.
So you were doing university and
so at this point left school, went to University of Birmingham to do biomedical science, and was on a sports scholarship.
Okay.
So I basically went back to university as like the first team captain, or like co-captain with my friend Maddie. We went back. I was on a sports scholarship that I had to kind of like have meetings to to kind of like fight for, to be like, you know, can I still have this? Because now I don't read the qualification of
because you're not on
representing my country.
Yeah.
And I had an amazing coach who kind of backed me the whole way and was like, no, like, we'll get you this, like, you're fine, like, we'll get you rehab back and you'll be back in no time. And again, at this point, some of the girls that were coming into my uni squad and stuff were like in over me, and they were younger than me. And
did you find that it affected you mentally during that time?
Oh yeah, like I felt like I was walking around like I was wounded. Like if anyone spoke to me about netball, like I would just burst into tears. And I remember quite soon after that happened, I went on holiday with my friend, who's now my sister-in-law. Yeah. We were speaking about this the other day, actually, because she's like, you're reflecting on it. And she was like, oh, you know, I just remember hearing you like crying in the other room. And I was like, gosh, it's so sad. And it's like, it shouldn't be that deep, but
it was.
It was like that. I'd made that my identity, and I had like cancelled plans going and see friends because I knew that their friends only saw me as Ellie that played England Netball, and I was like, I'm just not ready to face that and not have those conversations because it's still so raw. Yeah. And I remember like we were in Switzerland, I was just going on like a run by myself just to kind of like process and talk to God and be like, God, like what's going on? Like I know you've given me like gifts and abilities to be in the sport, and like I feel like I'm good enough to be there. Like what's going on, and you know, you've elevated me to these positions before, and like so clearly, like what I'm confused what's going on right now. Like, I feel hurt, but equally like I'm not going to run away from you because I know that I need you now more than ever. So good. As the run was finishing, it's kind of like, you know, I trust you. So it was a bit like, you know, like Lamentations, where you just go from like despair to like, actually no, I know who God is. God brings hope. God is faithful. Like, and what I thought was going to be a couple of months of getting back in, I ended up being like 2 years because of COVID.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was like a lot longer than I expected. Yeah. But it was amazing in that time, like the time of like healing that happened and learning to forgive. And I think the thing that I learned the most as well was family would be like, oh, you know, you need to forgive these people. And I was like, actually, I have forgiven them. It's more, but I've not forgiven myself for like the way in which I allowed myself to be in terms of, you know, that kind of arrogant, like feeling secured in this. It's like, I'm more annoyed that I put myself in that position. And then, like, basically it kind of came to a head a couple of years later, and I remember my parents coming into my room and being like, we need to pray over this, like, now.
Was this during COVID?
This was during COVID, because I actually went back home doing my third year of uni, and then after I was working at home for like 8 months, so I was back with my parents, and they just came in and we kind of prayed over it, and because I was still feeling pain, and they'd had some people kind of say, well, we've had a word for Ellie, like, we think she's feeling this, like, and these are people that I didn't even know me or the situation, and so they came and prayed over me, and then the next day that pain that I kind of felt that I was carrying was just like gone. Wow. But
that pain you carried was for quite a long time.
For like 2 years. Wow. Yeah, it was really hard, but again, like I say, the worst but also best years of my life. Kind of like getting reformed and being like, no, actually, I remember saying to my dad before the trial results came back, you know, I was like, I feel at peace with whatever happens. Like, I know that God, you know, has plans to prosper me, not to harm me, give me a hope in the future, and actually whatever plan that is, it's going to be that. So if netball's not that, then that's not what's going to be best.
What he wants for you.
Yeah, and so I think once I got to that place, and I genuinely felt like okay with that, and
you could at peace, that you could let it go.
Yeah, and also just at peace with like I'm Ellie Ratu. I don't need anything else added on to that.
This is so good, because I think, especially when I first came to Christ, like, I realised that my identity was so much in my career. I think it's so easy for it to happen, for you to fall into that, it becoming the highest priority and it becoming your life.
Yeah, and I think even as church, we need to, you know, remember that people are more than their job. And obviously it's great to ask, you know, how's your job? But like also see that people are like far more than that. I think that's really challenging when you see people in such a short amount of time in the week. But yeah, so anyway, I managed to get back in, and like back in at vice captain.
Wow. What was it like redoing those tryouts?
Well, I don't think we even had an actual trial day because of COVID and stuff. I think it was like we were playing in like a league, and I think they just selected from there.
Okay, wow.
From what I remember, but that was just like amazing because like God had just elevated me back to the position that I've been like taken from.
Yeah, wow.
And like when you've not been in that team for 2 years, like, that doesn't normally happen.
Yeah.
And I remember again, like I think maybe last year, my parents kind of sat down and my mum gave me this book that she'd written up, like she'd basically typed up her journal for those 2 years.
Wow.
And it was amazing because everything that I was feeling and like dealing with, like with me and God, my parents were just like covering me in prayer, and like God was speaking to them about my situation.
Wow.
And so there was like this kind of like, I didn't want to speak to them about a lot of stuff because obviously it's painful, but like God was keeping them in the loop, and like,
wow,
like they would have like pictures and words, and everything that I was reading was at the exact same time I was feeling that or was going through that. And it was just amazing to, like, they were praying that God would elevate me back into the position that I was in, but I didn't ask me, I wasn't praying to get like back in at vice captain. I just want to get back in, or like whatever you have for me is fine.
For sure.
And they were like, you know, we're going to ask for one more, like you can do more than we can like dream or imagine. And I think seeing their faith in that and the role that they played and how God was speaking to them was just like, it was just incredible. Like it was amazing. Wow. It's like seeing behind the scenes. And when I thought I'd had my own thing, which obviously I had, my parents were still battling through that as well. And they were having their own, like God was revealing himself to them in that place as well. So yeah, it was crazy. Like it was a very intense and like hard couple of years.
Yeah,
but it was,
for sure.
Like I'm so glad I had it.
Yeah, because it's now molded you into the person that you needed to be, and also realizing that God needs to always be at the top of the throne, right? 100%. Yeah. Do you feel like maybe during that time and before that time you were maybe like idolizing netball?
Yeah, like definitely. I think it was like a status thing. It was, you know, especially at university, it was, you know, you're in your sports scholarship, you know, you go to a special gym, and like, there's all these things that people, you know, they come and watch you play, and there's that kind of like, it's an elevation of status and of the way people see you and hold you.
Yeah, for sure.
You get like special treatment and stuff. So I think you definitely start to see yourself as like superior to other people, and that's obviously not right and not, you know, the way that Christ teaches us. So I think even just having that was a very humbling experience.
Yeah, for sure.
And also just reminds you, you know, yes, you're important, but you're also not important in the sense of like what you achieve. You do that because God's allowed you to. And given you the abilities and gifts to do that and open the right doors at the right time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it was kind of just like a humbling experience, but actually everything that you think you make for yourself can go.
Yes.
And like what
at any time.
And actually what does stay. Like God is the only thing that remains true the whole time. So we're seeing his kindness and his faithfulness over those years was amazing.
Wow. So then what did it look like you're back on the team? How was that? You're back in the team now.
Yeah, it was great. Like it was such a fun time to play again back with friends.
And post-COVID as well. So
100%. Like we actually were for a lot of the time allowed to still train, but we were exempt.
Oh, amazing.
With like elite sports. So for some, obviously there was still a big period where we were doing stuff at home. And then getting back and playing was just kind of like a new, still not trying to play from like a sense of I'm doing this to like be better and perform and blah, blah, which is obviously still the case. But it's also trying to remember actually this is a gift. Like, this is something I enjoy doing.
Yes.
And it's something that I want to spend my time doing, and not something that is like, I have to do this.
Yes.
Because this is who I am. It's like, no, actually, like, this is a part of who you are.
Yeah.
And like, the things that you love and the things that like God has given you the abilities to do.
Yeah.
Try and flip it more to like, let me enjoy this to its fullness instead of let it kind of like trap me in a way.
Yeah. So do you feel like the sport looks different now?
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm massively still working on that, and it's like you say, it's very easy to kind of fall back into old habits of thinking, and especially now that this is like my job.
Yeah.
So that kind of even more becomes like kind of a focus of your attention and your identity and stuff.
Yeah. So when did that shift? When did it become? I guess because before you were at university. When did it become? Yeah, your job, your full job. Yeah.
So even this is like again just God's hand over it. So I finished university and I went and worked in a school back at home for a bit, which I really loved. Like I love that job, and I was still training in a Super League team, and so I was like working during the day, literally walking home, napping for 20 minutes, and then driving 2 hours to London to train.
Wow.
Yeah, and then driving back. So
wow.
It was a lot.
So your training was in London.
Yeah. So the days were quite long. Like I love training, love like going to see my friends and stuff, and then even the day off that I had, I was doing counselling training. So I would have 3 hours of counselling training.
Wow.
And then we would play like 2 games at the weekend, one for like Super League, one for Prem. So the week was just like absolutely packed. And
God's strength could only get you through that. Wow.
And like COVID was still around, and I kind of got COVID a bit later on, maybe like 8 months into the job.
Okay.
And I basically like, I was in bed for like a week. Like I was just completely burnt out. I remember kind of being at school, like, I can't keep doing this. Like this is too much. And I was actually about to go part-time at work, or like get some of my hours reduced. And I got asked to do the full-time netball program.
Wow.
Which was like, literally meant I could quit my job.
That's incredible.
And it was like, oh, thank you, Lord, because like, I physically cannot do this any longer.
Wow. And I feel like that just reiterates like, well, we have to constantly be honest with him. It's like I've been powering through this with you, but like now I can't do this any longer.
Yeah.
And look, he provided, which is so amazing.
And like everything that I was doing as well, like I was enjoying and I felt cool to do. Like I started the counselling because I felt cool to do that. And I don't feel like that's for now, but maybe for later, or even just what I learned in those couple of courses.
From that.
Yeah, just like the self-awareness and like processing and everything has made me a better teammate, a better person, a better friend. So it was kind of like everything I did in that point was important. Yeah, there's no way I could like sustain that.
Yeah.
And he was very kind and kind of giving me like the best way out possible. So yeah, very, very grateful.
Yeah. Wow. So what was that shift like for you? You've gone from doing a lot. Obviously you're still then doing a lot, but it looks very different now. Very different, yeah.
I mean, the first, I think, month or so, I was basically just recovering from like COVID and being burnt out and kind of having rest, which was really nice. Yeah. And then going into the full-time program, you train like Monday to Thursday, twice a day up in Loughborough.
Wow.
So it's quite like intense for like that period of the week.
Yeah.
And now we have some like 5-day camps and stuff as well. So you're like away for most of the week, because that was tough.
Yeah.
Like I think I viewed myself, and I would say this is quite accurate, of like kind of the last person who got in. So I was kind of like, I'm very lucky to be in this position.
Yeah.
Lots of my friends were in as well.
Oh,
but they were kind of elevated before I was. And we all got into this part at the same point, but they'd been in like the futures below for a couple of years. And so I had like experience around there. And it was kind of like, oh my gosh, like I'm so scared, like I'm going to stay on the fringes. I'm just going to come in, like do my job and try and stay in and no one notice me. We laugh about it because pretty much after every session, you'd just be like crying because you'd be like, gosh, that was hard, or I made this mistake, or and you just overthink and you get stressed. And he's like, oh, I did so bad. But obviously, I'm not going to do as well as I normally do because all these people are like 10 times better than me and like more experienced and older. And it was a bit of a battle again of like, gosh, how do I keep my joy in this, when this is actually quite tough and I'm finding this transition, challenging.
And remember who Ellie is within all of this.
And also just like not having that plague your mind the whole time. What I've learned now, a couple of years later, is obviously you feel more comfortable and you get better, you get through it. But also I think last year was kind of a stamp on like, how do I keep my joy, because like joy is something that is freely given to me from God. Like, how do I claim that in times where I'm really disappointed with my performance or frustrated about something or stressed about something? And so it was kind of like, actually that is something that I am allowed to have, and not stop myself from having it because I think I don't deserve it because I've not done well in this. So that's still like an ongoing thing, but I think I've learned how to do that in part better. And it's been great to now have like some of the girls in the team that are Christian, like we do Bible studies together.
Wow.
And like we pray together before games, and it's been great to see kind of God like move through that.
Within that, wow, that's so nice, and would obviously make such a difference to even the daily, because you've got the community within Christ as well. So then obviously you live in London now. What then happened for you to get here?
So I moved to London 2 years ago. And I was living in an apartment in East London with 2 other girls on my team. So that was really fun. And so I'd been there for a year, and then I moved clubs. So I moved out of that apartment and moved in with 2 girls from church.
Nice.
I met like kind of within that year. So fairly new friendships, but we also had some depth to it, which was quite nice. And I absolutely love living with them.
That's amazing.
like still with them now and enjoying life. But so basically just moved for netball to be close to training.
Amazing. So what was it like to come to London and like start life here? Yeah, because it's completely different.
Yeah, completely different. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Like I think like I loved living at university, being independent, like no disrespect, like being away from my parents and like having your own life.
Yeah.
And like deciding what you do and what you're gonna have for dinner and all these kind of little things, and like, I'm just gonna go out here now with these people and not have to say why. And so I really like thrive off that. Like I really enjoy that, and I think London's amazing. Like there's so much you can do.
So much you can
like
do.
there's so many young people as well. I think I just love the sense of like being an adult. You know?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Obviously, there's things I don't like about it.
Yeah.
Like pain stuff.
Yeah.
But everything else, like I think. Because a lot of my uni was kind of cut short because of COVID. It feels like I'm living the best years. Or like the more freedom of it.
For sure.
So like I don't think I'd stay here forever, but definitely like enjoying this part of my life.
Yeah. What was it like finding a church and all of that coming here?
So I did a little bit of research. I had some people kind of, give me some ideas of places in London, and I knew that I didn't want to travel too far.
Yeah.
Especially if I had like training or games, like I wanted to know that I can kind of come back in time for church or whatever. And so I go to Saint now in East London. And that was literally, I think, the first church I went to. They were having a conference.
Oh, wow.
And I wasn't really sure what the conference was about. I went with my friend. Like upper room were there and other speakers that I know.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, so we must be on like a similar vibe then if like, I listen to this music and that sort of thing. So kind of went, like really enjoyed it, felt very welcomed, and then just started going to the regular Sunday, made some friends, and I love it.
Wow, that's so nice that also like it was just then so seamless, I guess, coming here, especially when you come to a new city. Is there anything like during this season right now, living in London and with your netball and anything that you feel like's really either like challenging you or pushing you further?
I think at the moment it's kind of like we're seeing revival in a lot of places, which is amazing, and I love that.
Yeah.
And I love the thought of that and all of that. And I think it's, for me at the moment, it's the times when I feel like I make my relationship with God the same as netball in terms of like a performance thing, and being like, okay, like, oh God, like I'm sorry I've not done this and done this and done this and done this, and like I know that these things are good and they're good for my relationship with God, and I know that I do them because it will help me, but it's also like, even stripping that back, it's actually like I want to get to a place where I want to do those things, and I love to do those things because I love God, and not just like okay, how do I get closer to God today? What should I do as a Christian today? Okay, I should read my Bible, pray. Do you know what I mean? I think for me, it's trying to kind of shape how I see God. Of He's not there going, okay, now I'm going to bless you because you've done
X, Y, and Z.
Or now I'm actually not going to speak to you because you haven't read your Bible in 3 days. Or I think that's something I'm, battling with at the moment, and it's kind of like, okay, how do I, especially when you don't feel anything, and like knowing that faith is not feelings, and being that actually I can still worship you and I can still praise you and speak about you and do all these things that glorify you, even when I don't feel like I'm on fire right now for you, because actually my faith is more than that, and actually I still believe that you're God, and I still trust you, and I still love you, even if the way that I feel like my actions of the things that are supposed to be a perfect Christian aren't happening, or like I'm doing them out of duty, like I can actually still profess like everything that God has done, even if I'm in a place of being like, actually God, I don't feel like I'm hearing from you, but that's okay, because actually you speak in silence. Like I was in church the other day, and I hadn't gone forward for prayer for ages, and I kind of knew that I could feel myself getting a little bit like hard of heart, and things were irritating me. And I was like, actually, like, I can just pray for myself. I was like, actually, it's not about that. And then I'm just going to the front and having this lovely couple pray for me. And like, even just me saying how I felt, immediately, like, my emotions just came back. I was just crying, because it was like actually just the confession of like, this is how I feel that God is seeing me. And like, even saying that, I know that's so wrong. And then the Holy Spirit was like, yeah, that's so wrong. But the fact that you've managed to say that, there's like power in speaking it out. So I think that was just kind of like actually there is power in church and and in community, and not doing it alone. So I think it's just constantly having to remind myself and allow God to remind me of how deep his love is for me, and then it's surpassing my performance.
Yeah.
And obviously wanting to do these things is good, but I need to make sure I'm doing them from a place of like love and intimacy with God, and not out of like a duty or obligation, because I think it'll make me a better Christian.
Yes. Is there anything else that you want to share?
I think the only thing else that I would add of just like how God's had his hand over everything is like, even from like getting obviously into this England squad and stuff, and he's just opened doors for me to speak about him, which has been amazing.
Wow.
Like I remember we got this form at England Netball being like, oh, you know, write a little bit about yourself, what you do.
Yeah.
And I was, I'm a Christian. Like, if you ask me what I did, I'd be like, okay, well, I'm a full-time netball player, but I also like help out at church and stuff.
Yeah.
And so kind of wrote a little bit about that. Like I do some coaching and stuff. And it was kind of, I basically got asked on one of the tours, like, oh, we're going to do some media stuff. Like, do you want to speak about your faith? I was like, yeah, I do. I can't believe you want me to speak about my faith.
Wow, that's amazing.
So this video went out, and it was kind of great just to kind of like get that out for the first time. And then I've had things since with like other like media outlets and like Sky being like, you know, giving me an in of like, oh no, what should we know about you? And I remember kind of sitting there being like, okay, well, you've given me this opening, and I'd be stupid if I don't take it now. So like I got to kind of speak about, you know, my faith. Yeah, it's just been amazing to see the feedback of people kind of want to hear about that, and other Christians also, like in the fan base and in the family, and kind of like become a kind of like pop up a little bit. And so that's been amazing just to see God kind of like use that. And I, you know, we've got dreams that will only grow, you know, this year, next year, in the years to come. So it'll be interesting. It'll be exciting.
Yeah, really exciting. And also so amazing that he is literally giving you these platforms to spread his goodness and light and him, you know.
And he's making it so easy as well, which I think is, I think we often fear that it's going to be like a real struggle to say things and to share this part of our lives.
Yes.
And actually God is so kind. Like he makes
so kind.
Like he often makes things very easy
and seamless.
Very subtle, very gently, and I think it's kind of just like listening, being obedient to any opportunity that you get.
Yeah, for sure.
And he'll use it. So I think it's also just amazing, like you say, to see his ease and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, everything is his.
Yeah,
day,
literally.
Like, if he wants a door open, he'll open it.
Yeah.
And he'll keep it open. So I think it's just like, again, being surprised and being shocked at his like faithfulness and his generosity. In all walks of life, really, but especially like with netball.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing, and thank you so much for being here today and sharing your life with me.
That's that.
Is there any final words of like encouragement or any last words you want to say?
I think just like God is good, and like, I know a lot of people say that and like, yeah, but I'm struggling with this, I'm struggling with that, but actually he's given us everything we need in the Holy Spirit, in his word, in community, and in his presence. And I think like we literally lack nothing when we take full advantage of that. Yeah. And I think we often are the people to stop ourselves from enjoying the fullness of God, like not anyone else or situations. I think it's ourselves. Yeah. And like I was saying earlier about the joy and stuff, like you have to take hold of something that he's got for you freely. Like you have a responsibility to choose that for yourself. But he's kind and he's in all of it, even if you don't see it right now. Yeah, for sure. Oh, thank you so much. That was amazing. And yeah, thank you for being here today. Thank you.